Barbados is getting ready for parliamentary elections this Wednesday after becoming the youngest republic in the world. German Foreign Minister Annalena Baerbock held talks with her Russian counterpart Sergey Lavrov in Moscow on Tuesday, seeking to ease tensions amid fears that Russia is preparing to invade Ukraine. And bombings perpetrated by the Saudi coalition against Yemen have claimed the lives of at least 12 people, leaving 11 others wounded. From the headquarters of TeleSUR English in Havana, Cuba, this is From the South. I'm your anchor, Gladys Quesada, and these are the news. Barbados is getting ready for parliamentary elections this Wednesday after becoming the youngest republic in the world. A total of 108 candidates divided among 7 parties plus 9 independents are competing for a seat in the legislative body. According to the Electoral Authority, both the Barbados Labour Party, the BLP, led by Prime Minister Mia Mottley, and the Democratic Labour Party, the DLP, presented a list of 30 candidates. On the other hand, the Alliance for Progress Party, the APP of Bishop Joseph Atterley, nominated 20 candidates, and the Barbados Solutions Group nominated 11 candidates for these elections. The Electoral and Boundaries Commission, the EBZ, indicated that 266,030 people also are eligible to vote in the general elections this January 19th. At least 3,300 electoral officials will be on duty on Wednesday to ensure that the electoral process runs smoothly. Authorities and social groups denounced the death of at least 4 social leaders in only 18 days of 2022. The Institute of Studies for Development and Peace in the past denounced this Monday the murder of another social leader in Colombia, registering at least 145 social leaders murdered and so far in the year 2022. Citizens demand speed and transparency in the investigation of the facts, as well as immediate protection of other leaders and defenders who are threatened. The NGOs defending the rights of farmer communities in Colombia have denounced the murder of Luz Marina Arteaga, the latest social leader to join the list. And the Mexican freelance reporter and photographer Margarito Martinez Esquivel was murdered on Monday. The incident occurred outside his residence in the city of Tijuana in Baja California in the northwest of the country. The public prosecutor's office confirmed the death of the second journalist who was murdered in the country in 2022. Martinez was a contributor to local, national, and international media, and at the age of 49, he lost his life after assassins, apparently minors, shot him around 1 p.m. local time outside his home. According to reports published by the journalist rights organizations, Mexico and Afghanistan are still at the top of the list of countries where it is most dangerous to practice journalism. In the last 5 years, 47 reporters have been murdered in the North American nation. Brazilian workers demand financial protection faces the inflation index increase. With more on the matter, our correspondent Brian Mier.
I'm standing in front of the Brazilian Central Bank, where the workers have decided to enact a one-day paralyzation in protest of the fact that for the last 3 years, they haven't received any adjustment for inflation. Inflation has risen 26%. Not only have they not received any kind of raise, they haven't received any inflationary adjustment. The energy that's been generated by this one-day work paralyzation here at the Central Bank has caught on, and there's other unions of government workers around the country who've decided to join in today in solidarity. So today is being called a national day of mobilization and paralyzation. The idea is to put a little bit of pressure on the Brazilian Central Bank. If they don't move, on Friday, there's going to be a general strike of government workers against the neoliberal policies of Jair Bolsonaro and his Chicago boy finance minister, Paulo Guedes, who've spun the Brazilian economy downwards since they've taken office 3 years ago by implementing deep austerity cuts during a recession, which is always a suicide move. So today, there's more and more people showing up. The international media is here, the national media is here. They're going to march on the economics ministry, on Paulo Guedes' office. And if the Bolsonaro administration refuses to budge, there'll be a strike starting on Friday.
Thank you, Brian, for this report. And now we continue to other topics. In Haiti's capital, Port-au-Prince, Haiti's Prime Minister Ariel Henry on Monday called for the avoidance of fratricidal struggles and the violence over power. This was stated during an intervention before the public media on the occasion of the inauguration of the new Minister of Culture, Emile Prophet Mills, hours after it became known that the Haitian diaspora had appointed an interim president. The premier insisted that there is no legal or constitutional way to elect a legitimate interim Haitian president. Henry reaffirmed that the president of Haiti will be elected freely and democratically by the Haitian people. Various civil society groups in the diaspora gathered in New Orleans, south of the United States, and the so-called Haitian Unity Summit, and named Fritz Alphonse Jean as interim president there. And a few moments ago, a woman was paroled in El Salvador after 9 years in prison, accused of aggravated homicide for allegedly having an abortion. The woman, identified under protection as Kenya and initially sentenced to 30 years in prison, became pregnant after suffering a sexual assault at the age of 17 and subsequently had an obstetric emergency. According to the Salvadoran group Citizens for the Decriminalization of Abortion, Kenya was arrested by the police and then prosecuted for the crime of aggravated homicide, for which she was sentenced to 30 years in prison until her release. Kenya thus becomes the fourth woman to be released out of the 17 Salvadoran women unjustly imprisoned for suffering health emergencies during their pregnancies. And we'll be right back after this very short break, so don't go away. Welcome back to From the South. German Foreign Minister Annalena Baerbock held talks with her Russian counterpart Sergey Lavrov in Moscow on Tuesday, seeking to ease tensions amid fears that Russia is preparing to invade Ukraine. Baerbock arrived in the Russian capital after a visit to Ukraine, with the relationships between the two countries sure to be the main topic of the conversation between the two diplomats. At a joint press conference, Baerbock said that the Russian troops build-up near Ukraine was not understandable, and it was hard not to take it as a threat, but Moscow denied seeking a pretext to invade Ukraine or planning an attack. They has also been demanding that the North Atlantic Treaty Organization drastically scale back its military build-up in Eastern Europe and wants to secure a pledge from the Transatlantic Military Alliance that it will never accept Ukraine as a member.
On Ukraine, we have a common understanding of absence of alternative to the Minsk agreements. We indicated to our partners that it's unacceptable to present Russia as part of the conflict. We have seen such attempts lately, and it's unacceptable to shift the responsibility for absence of progress in implementing Minsk agreements to Russia. We hope that German colleagues will weigh in on other key partners to make them finally fulfill their obligations. We exchanged opinions on continuing certification process and upcoming start of operation of the gas pipeline Nord Stream 2. It's the largest commercial project in the last decade that is aimed at ensuring German and European energy security. We drew German colleagues' attention to the counterproductivity of attempts to politicize this project.
Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko said that joint military maneuvers will be held with Russia in February close to the borders with Ukraine, as well as Eastern North Atlantic Treaty Organization member states. The announcement came as tensions between the West and Russia have been growing in recent months over the security in Ukraine, a close western line that borders Belarus. The Belarusian head of state said the drills will be named Determination of the Union 2022, and forces will work on a specific plan to counter forces from the West, from Baltic countries and Poland. Belarus Security Council Secretary Alexander Volfovich said that Russian troops already had started arriving in the country for the exercise.
Now we see that we need to hold solid drills in these western and southern regions, the Belarusian Balkans. These drills should be purely involving Belarusians. They should be normal drills to work on a specific plan to counter forces from the west, from Baltic countries and Poland, and from the south. We plan to start the drills in February.
And the former leader of Kazakhstan, Nursultan Nazarbayev, on Tuesday denied any conflict with his successor in his first appearance since unrest in the Central Asian country that sparked rumors of a power struggle.
I transferred the president's power to Kassym-Jomart Tokayev, and I have been a pensioner ever since. I am currently in the capital of Kazakhstan on well-deserved retirement, and I have never left for anywhere.
And Portugal is gearing up for national elections at the end of the month amidst a surge in Omicron cases across the country. Election is scheduled for 30 January and the government is still waiting on a decision from the Attorney General on whether voters who are in isolation or infected will be allowed to vote. With the peak expected to come in days, potentially hundreds of thousands of voters could be in isolation at the end of the month, and authorities are searching for ways of holding the ballot. Around 89% of Portugal's population of 10.3 million people is fully vaccinated against COVID-19, and more than 3.5 million people have received booster shots. Despite the successful vaccination campaign, new daily cases have set records of around 40,000 in recent weeks. Voters will elect 230 lawmakers to the Republican Assembly, Portugal's parliament.
If we continue with the same economic development model, we will continue with the same results and will not be able to take away poverty from those who, even while working, are poor. And those who are not working and have no income may not get the benefits they need because the country will continue to not have enough resources to help them. The upcoming elections are really decisive elections, and this is why I asked the Portuguese to help us, to help me. We are coming out of the greatest pandemic crisis that anyone has endured in the last 100 years. No one can recall a prime minister in Portugal having to face such a situation. And we are coming out of it with one of the highest vaccination rates in the world. We are coming out of it with all the indicators saying that at the end of this semester, we will have recovered the pre-crisis levels.
Now we move on to other topics. Several hundred demonstrators gathered in northern Germany to protest the country's pandemic restrictions. Police in the city of Rostock stopped the protest as the mouth-nose protection obligation has been violated. Local TV footage showed a crowd gathering with many not wearing masks. Protesters set up firecrackers and at least a dozen were temporarily arrested by police officers. Across the country, organizers again held marches labeled as strolls in an attempt to bypass restrictions on public gatherings. Most of the rallies passed peacefully, though many broke rules on social distancing, prompting officers to intervene. Australia reported a record high number of COVID-19 fatalities on Tuesday, and its second largest state declared an emergency in hospitals to cope with surging patient admissions and staffing shortages due to the coronavirus. The 74 deaths occurred in the country's three most populous states. New South Wales reported 36, Victoria reported 22, and Queensland 16. The previous daily record was 59 coronavirus-related deaths on September 4th, 2020. The New South Wales government has ruled out a return to lockdown to counter the highly contagious Omicron variant. Victoria declared an emergency for hospitals in its state capital and several regional hospitals from midday Wednesday because of staff shortages and a surge in patient admissions. Above 5,000 staff are absent because they are either infected or close contacts. Physiotherapists and medical students will be asked to take on nursing duties.
Making a significant announcement about Code Brown activation across our health services. We've been saying now for some time that our hospital system is under extreme pressure, and the risks we're now seeing in COVID hospitalisations are testament to that. So we've reached a point in our health system where it's juggling severe workforce shortages. We've got more than 4,000 healthcare workers unavailable right now, alongside a vast number of patients with COVID-19 who require hospitalisation. Alongside that, an extraordinary workforce that are absolutely exhausted.
And we have more stories coming up after this final short break, so stay with us. Welcome back and join us as we now update information from the Middle East. As just a few moments ago, the bombings perpetrated by the Saudi coalition against Yemen have claimed the lives of at least 12 people, leaving 11 others wounded. The attack took place in Sanaa, the capital of the country, and for many experts it is one of the bloodiest actions against the city in recent years. According to the information agency in charge of the Houthi rebels, the attacks launched in the last hours claimed the life of Brigadier General Abdullah Qazim al-Junaid, former director of the Air Force, and several members of his family died, including women and children. This new attack on Yemen comes hours after the attacks on the international airport and an industrial zone in Abu Dhabi, which left at least 3 dead and 6 wounded.
Residential homes were targeted, as well as the houses of Al-Junaid and Al-Hadal. The search is still ongoing to find Uncle Ali, but so far we haven't. Many of the Al-Junaid's family were killed and only one woman survived. Coalition launched 2 airstrikes. The first one was on the house of Al-Junaid and the second on the home of Ali Al-Hadal. 11 people were killed. The search is still going on for survivors in the rubble.
United Nations studies reveal the situation in Myanmar continues to deteriorate following the takeover by a military junta on February 1st. According to the UN spokesperson, Stefan Dujarric, several humanitarian workers are still providing assistance in the areas of major conflict, were forced to suspend their operations in December due to the high level of insecurity. As a result of the situation, the spokesperson requested that the United Nations workers be given additional security as they continue to carry out humanitarian work in the area. North Korea confirmed on Tuesday new ballistic tests after launching 2 tactical guided missiles. Pyongyang insists on reinforcing its military equipment in the face of the U.S. sanctions. North Korea reported today that it has fired 2 tactical guided missiles to verify the accuracy of this weapon system, in what is already its 4th demonstration of force in 2 weeks. According to the state agency KAZAKHSTAN, the 2 missiles were launched from the western part of the country and accurately hit an island target in the Sea of Japan, known in the Korean peninsula as the East Sea, confirming the accuracy, safety, and efficiency of this type of weaponry. North Korea's official news agency, the KZNA, released a photo of the Monday's test firing of a tactical guided missile conducted under a Defense Science Academy program at an undisclosed location. The Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson also urged the United States to stop its discriminatory acts and political manipulation on China as soon as possible, and not to disrupt and undermine normal exchanges and cooperation between the 2 countries.
There is an old Chinese saying to the effect that he who has a mind to frame others can easily trump up some charges. The U.S. Department of Justice's China initiative sets caseloads target before conducting investigation, which can only lead to miscarriage of justice. According to reports, most of the China-related cases examples under this initiative over the past 2 years do not involve intellectual property or trade secrets theft. Such wanton disregard for judicial justice and fabrication of charges has been strongly opposed and condemned by people who believe in justice around the world. As facts have proven, the China initiative is nothing but a clumsy tool used by anti-China forces in the U.S. to abuse the national security concept to suppress and contain China. The U.S. should heed the just call from all sectors, correct its wrong practices as soon as possible, stop seeing China as an imaginary enemy, stop its discriminatory acts and political manipulation, and stop disrupting and undermining normal China-U.S. exchange and cooperation in science, technology, people-to-people, and cultural fields.
Now Now we move on to other topics. A New Zealand Navy ship on Tuesday left for Tonga, where significant damage was being reported days after a huge undersea volcanic eruption and tsunami. The much-needed shipment brought drinking water and other supplies to the Pacific island nation. Thick ash on an airport runway has prevented flights and delayed air deliveries to Tonga. Another New Zealand Navy ship is scheduled to leave later on Tuesday. Australia also sent a Navy ship from Sydney to Brisbane to prepare for a support mission if needed. Communications with Tonga have been extremely limited, but New Zealand and Australia sent military surveillance flights to assess the damage on Monday, with aerial photos showing the vibrant Tongan landscape transformed by the ash of a grey moonscape. Environmental authorities and workers of the Pampila refinery worked to clean oil for Ambition Lima after a spill attributed to high waves caused by the eruption of a volcano in Tonga. The spill was controlled within hours, but the cleaning process is ongoing. The Peruvian Civil Defense Institute said in a press release that on Sunday a ship was offloading oil onto La Pampilla refinery on the Pacific coast when strong waves moved abruptly the boat, causing the spill. The eruption on Saturday caused waves that crossed the Pacific. In Peru, 2 people drowned off of a beach, and there were reports of minor damage from New Zealand to Santa Cruz, California. And we have come to the end of this news brief. But remember, you can find this and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. And also, if you feel so inclined, please join us on social media for all the latest news. We are on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Telegram. For TeleSUR English, I'm Gladys Quesada. Thank you for watching.